Welcome once again to Glue. Tonight, our special guest is Dr. Mike. Welcome, Dr. Mike. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Marty. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. So, since this is a pretty unique show, usually I do a predetermined kind of subject, but since you and I are kind of all over the place, this is definitely open forum, open everything. What do you want to talk about tonight?
Well, a couple of things that's been on my mind lately, and one is a lot of people that I've talked to recently for whatever reason, whether it's because of ISIS or the Christian versus Islam, or I don't know. There's been a lot of things about life after death and which religion is right and which God is right and things like that. That's pretty much where I would like to kind of kick it off there.
All right. Well, as soon as we start talking about, boy, this is very forbidden stuff. These are topics that people kind of vapor lock over, if you really think about it.
Well, I think anybody who would really vapor lock over something like this is somebody with a narrow mind, somebody with a predetermined mind that will not change under any circumstances. And as someone once told me, sure, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, even if they are wrong. It's those kinds of minds that's going to vapor lock. I think most people who are really searching, people who are looking, people who are trying to find out what's what and what's not, are going to have an open mind. And there's just too many things out there that you cannot say, no, that didn't happen or something.
Well, that's true. And, you know, when it comes to discussing religion or discussing science, especially when you're discussing science, you find people saying the words, well, I believe, ...
Right.
Not understanding that even though they're discussing science, they're trying to discuss science, they're actually discussing a belief. And a belief is not science.
Well, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I have friends who tell me that they're atheists. That's what they believe. I said, then you have a belief, don't you?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Your belief may not be in a all-being, powerful being, or in God as we know or think of it, or a Savior, Messiah, Buddha, Gandhi, Allah, whatever, but you do have a belief.
Exactly.
So one of the things I like to kind of kick off with about it is that what I hear so much from so many people about is that, well, you know, the Old Testament this and the Old Testament that, and this is how things are, and this is what the Bible says. Okay, well, I have a lot of questions about that. First of all, even the most educated Jewish scholars say that a lot of the Old Testament are nothing more than mythology, stories that were meant to keep people in line and stuff like that. Some reality mixed with some fantasy. But if you take a look at the stories in the Old Testament, you will find the same stories. Now let me break you for a minute. My mind's going in 10 different directions. At the time that the Jewish nation, according to the Bible, came along, there had been multiple civilizations before that. Many civilizations. Whether you're talking about the Sumerians or, I mean, there's just too many to list. We don't have time. All of them had a belief system, and a lot of the stories in their belief system mirrors the Old Testament. Now, the stuff like if a man lies with a man, then he should be killed, or if a woman is on her period and lies with a man, then she should be killed. I don't think any of that stuff is in the older text, but the stuff about the flood and the burning bush and the rules handed down to Moses on the mountain, these are similar stories about similar prophets in different languages, in different times, thousands of years before the Old Testament allegedly was revealed to the Jewish nation. So, if we take a look at that and then we jump forward to that, they're all telling the same story. So what makes this one particular story the solid truth? Okay, if this is a fact, then what did God do with all the people before and all the nations and civilizations before? Did he just say, I don't like them. Let them go. Let them all go to hell. I don't care. And then the Jewish nation came along and suddenly he's like, ooh, these people are kind of cool. I'll jump on them. You know, I'll jump on their bandwagon. And then we go through the Old Testament. We hit the New Testament. They're in two entirely different teachings. The New Testament is the New Testament of Jesus Christ. It's what Jesus did, how he lived, whether you're talking about Buddha, whether you're talking about Confucius, whether you're talking about any other great icons in the religious realm, this is about Jesus. And Jesus was very much against a lot of the stuff that's in the Old Testament. He's very much against a lot of the negative, mean, nasty, hate-filled, fire and brimstone that's in the Old Testament. Plus, the books of the Bible, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, that were supposedly written by the apostles, were actually written anywhere from 80 to 120 years after their death. And at first they came out and said, oh, well, they passed the stories down. Well, no, they wrote them down and passed them. Well, these are what was happening. No, they weren't written by the apostles. They were written by people up to a century later. So I'm just going to I'm going to let you say something here, because I can keep going on this, because to me it's a very, very diluted, very bizarre twist of things, and more people, whether you're talking about Islam, whether you're talking about Christianity, whether you're talking about Hindus, whether anybody, have killed more people in the name of God than all the wars known to man put together.
Right. It does get, the waters get very muddy very quickly, especially when you start talking about, wasn't it Constantine that got rid of the Apocrypha?
I believe so.
And if you've done any studying about it, the Apocrypha are the books of the Old Testament that were removed because Constantine and his court, I believe, decided that those were not important, or that they weren't a true record that should be passed along. And the Book of Enoch is one of those.
Yes, that is very true. And the same thing in the New Testament, the Gospel according to Thomas, which was supposed to be in Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Thomas, and a couple others, were taken out of the New Testament because during the time of King James, and you got to remember this, when you talk about the King James Version of the Bible, what are you saying? What's coming out of your mouth? The King James Version. Okay? That came from King James, and his people he had to do quote-unquote research, allegedly from the original Greek, etc., etc. But they removed books from the Bible that they felt weren't beneficial to the kingdom, to the monarch, or things that might be a little too revolutionary for people to read that could very well turn them against the powers that be and things like that. So they said, we'll put these books in the Bible and we'll take these books out and we'll call it the King James Version. That has happened so much, so often, that the only way anyone would ever know what the Bible truly says is they learned to read ancient Greek and was able to get to the Dead Sea Scrolls and read it.
Right.
And I don't think too many people can do that. And even if you could, you're not allowed to.
Right.
Why?
Well, because they were put on copper, and a lot of them are deteriorated, and you have to make interpretations from that as well, because they were written in Aramaic.
Yes.
By the Essenes.
Yes.
And so that's going to depend upon your interpretation of Aramaic from now to then. There are so many ways to really interpret anything. And when you think about it, even translating languages from today, a lot gets lost. And Charlie McMullen and I were talking about this in the last episode.
Uh-huh.
He was performing in front of a group of international people.
Right.
And there was someone trying to interpret his jokes. And I would imagine that kind of got convoluted in itself, because as soon as you move from one language to another, there are just things that don't translate. So that's in a contemporary society. So all of a sudden, when you go from a language that hasn't existed in quite some time, a couple thousand years, to today, that's even going to multiply the lack of understanding and the meaning. It's going to muddy those waters as well.
Well, I understand that, but I was under the belief that the original Aramaic in which it was written was then translated to Greek during that time period, and then the Greek was the ones that, or the Greek language, I should say, was what was used by the original church before it became the Holy Roman Catholic Church,
Right.
and totally veered away from its original mission. And they used the Greek because it was still easily translatable
Exactly.
to start writing with. Now, to get back to what you were just saying about an international audience, I found that very, very, very personally, my experience, put it that way, was like, if you ever heard of Vasquez Sounds, it's a group from Baja, Mexico, fantastic group, and the lead singer's name is Angela Vasquez. Her name is Angie Vasquez. Very beautiful, very intelligent girl. She's like 15 years old, and she has like 5 million followers on Twitter and maybe 2 or 3 million on Facebook. So I wrote to them and I was like, you know, you do great music. You should do more in America. And I saw the translations, and basically what it breaks down to in the simplest form is like, if I was to say, Marty, I'm going to go to the store. When they translate it, and I see the translations of it going to her, it comes out more like, to the store I am going to go, Marty. It's almost like a reverse.
Exactly.
And so, of course, translation and interpretation of that translation is up to the individual.
Right.
You know, if they can't see the same message that you're trying to get across or trying to read or whatever the situation may be, then of course there's going to be confusion. But if we go forward into this stuff that's going on right now between the ISIS people calling the Europeans the Crusaders, obviously they're holding a grudge, like some kind of fucked up bunch of monkeys from, you know, something that happened in the 1200s, 1300s, you know, centuries upon centuries ago, and they're still pissed about it. Okay? So their interpretation of what was written maybe in their book, the Quran, has been proven time and time and time and time again not to be what is actually written in the Quran. And the same thing with Christianity. A lot of Christians, boy, they want to use that Old Testament, you know, kill all the homosexuals and kill the women you don't like and do this and do that because it's in there. Okay? But if you're a Christian, wouldn't you be following the New Testament? You know, Jesus was kind of more like what people would call a hippie.
Right.
You know? And he was all about peace, love, and forgiving.
Right.
And sad to say, I think a lot of the modern day Christians would be the same type of people that would be crucifying him.
Absolutely. Well, you're talking about a religion that's based upon the actions of a man.
Mm-hmm.
And the man did things that people who are followers of the religion don't exactly believe in anymore today. They think that they know what he said, what he did, but they don't choose to walk in his shoes.
Yeah.
In other words, you're talking about a man who thought everybody should come together and love each other.
Yes.
And have compassion for each other and not be judgmental of each other. You know, to where he's washing the feet of his disciples.
Yes.
He doesn't feel like he's, you know, any really more important than anybody else, other than he's showing you the way. He wouldn't judge others because that's up to someone else to judge.
Yes. But you take a look at so many modern day Islamic people and Christian people alike choose to revert back to the older, meaner, nastier parts of their holy books and say, well, this is what we should do. This is what we need to do. These are the kind of things we need to do. Burn things up, blow things up, kill people, execute. And unfortunately, you really can't find that anywhere in the Quran. And the stuff that is talked about along those lines in the Old Testament is much more weird, personal type stuff that I find very hard to apply to any way, shape, or form to what's going on.
It's a cult.
Oh, yes, very much so. But you were also talking about, you know, what Jesus said and what Jesus did and what people think he did and what they think. Then why is it that when you tell these people, oh, yeah, you know, Jesus did this, this is what the New Testament says, and they go, oh, absolutely, absolutely. You know, it's like the old saying, they talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. It's like the minister that was on TV today, on the news they were talking about. He's in a super church, one of those mega super churches, and his big thing last Sunday was getting his entire congregation to give him money because he needed to buy a G5 private jet aircraft because God told him he needed a jet plane with super top line luxury to fly around and spread the gospel. Well, Jesus didn't even own a donkey. He walked everywhere he went. He every once in a blue moon he might have had a boat ride across a lake or across a river, you know, but this guy, he's supposed to be walking the walk, talking the talk, talking the talk, walking the walk, but he needs a G5 ultra luxury airplane to do it.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and you kind of get to the point where I do not believe in organized religion. I believe in a higher power of God, whoever, whatever God may be. And I believe that Jesus Christ was a good man and a good prophet and had many wonderful things to teach and say, as did Gandhi, who lived in up until the 1940s when he was assassinated. And then you take a look at Buddha and Confucius and many other great religious icons. They all had good things to say. And if you put it all together, is that the same God from one generation, one civilization to the other? Or were there a lot of different ones? And if that's the case, who do you choose? Because they all promise salvation, and they all promise a better life, and they all promise this, that, or the other thing. What do? Like, okay, I'm going to put their names in a hat and pull one out? You know, if your mind is that closed, then I don't think there's any salvation per se to anybody in that particular realm. I just don't.
Well, that's true. Well, also, the more you look into religion and life after death, because that's really what religion is.
Now you're going down a big old path.
Oh, yeah. Because that's really what religion is all about. Religion is all about an afterlife.
Something better than what we've got.
Exactly. And most religions will talk to you about salvation and what there is after this life. And if you live a certain type of life, what you are to expect in the afterlife. In fact, Catholicism is pretty much of the opinion that the more you suffer in this lifetime, the better off you're going to have it on the other side. That, you know, it's through suffering. And that's quite a statement, really. But there are some merits to that, considering the reality of who we are. We are born into this life screaming.
Yes.
We're crying.
Yes.
And as human beings, we are this bag of flesh with bones inside, and we have all these nerve endings. And what are the majority of these nerve endings for? Pain.
Pain or pleasure. You mostly get pain, though.
That's right. And how do you know something's wrong? The body has all these pain receptors to tell you, hey, something's wrong, man. You need to do something. And, oh, don't step on that foot because there's pain there. Something's wrong. And this keeps you from re-injuring it, stepping on it to the point to where, well, maybe it's falling off, you know, it's making the injury worse. So it's there to protect you, really.
Well, you just threw open a door. In fact, you didn't throw open a door. You threw open a double door, shall we say. My companion has brain cancer. And while they were getting radiation treatment and chemo, I had to sit. I couldn't go in. The door, they gave me a tour at the University Hospital in Denver. And the door to go into the radiation room was literally over 6 feet thick. It was on a roller. And they put this person in this room. They clamped them down with a wire mesh screen type thing, so they can't even move their eyelids because they want to make sure that radiation hits exactly where it's supposed to hit. So I would sit outside in the waiting area while they were treating her, and I would watch children coming in. Sometimes they were infants. Sometimes they were toddlers. 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, little kids who hadn't even started kindergarten or started grade school yet. And and for some odd reason, they were mostly little girls. Only a handful of little boys did I ever see. But they would come in, and they'd get them ready for radiation. They'd have to knock them out so they could clamp them down like they were supposed to clamp them down. And all I saw was suffering, crying, pain, suffering. Little bitty children hooked up to 1, 2, 3, 4 IVs. Parents with the look of dismay, hopelessness on their faces. Parents crying while they had to sedate their little babies, their little children, their toddlers to get radiation for cancers that they had. Don't you think that would qualify for actually being part of your afterlife? The suffering that they go through, the suffering my companion has gone through. I have known since I have lived here 8 different people who have died from cancers. And I've known probably 10 or 12 who are in remission from cancer. So I guess it's a flip of the coin. But that, to me, is the ultimate form of suffering. Something you have you can do nothing about, and every single day from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, you're on medications for pain, for spasms, for bleeding, for all this different stuff. That, to me, is a hell on earth. And anyone who can't see that is a fucking moron. Okay, pardon my language, but you can't sit there for 40 minutes while you're waiting for someone else to get finished and see these people parading through and see that and go, my God, why? Why, God? Why is this happening? Why is this stuff going on? Why are they suffering? You see soldiers coming back from war, burnt beyond recognition, but still alive. Coming back with no arms, no legs, still alive. Coming back, can't see, can't hear, still alive. Why? Is that all part of the game? Is that all part of like, oh, wow, you just racked up 5,000 points. You get a gold room up here. Oh, you've only got 3,000 points. You get a silver room. I'm sorry. You know, based on that thinking, based on that ideology and that theology, they're paying their dues. There really can't be a hell for them, can there? I got you speechless. I'm sorry, dude.
Well, I have no answer for that because I don't know. I don't know. And I think that's kind of the difference between people like you and me, because we're very open-minded and we could admit we don't know. There are things that we think, there are things that we may believe, but in the end, we just don't know. Maybe we're not even capable of knowing. Maybe these are things that we're not supposed to know.
Why would we not be supposed to know?
Pardon me?
I said that too fast. Why is it then are these things that we're not supposed to know? Why would it be such a secret from us? Is our Creator jealous? Or is our Creator just saying, you have to take it on blind faith?
Maybe, and this is just pure speculation, maybe there are things that we just need to experience and not contemplate. Because, you know, we contemplate so much without living in the now.
Oh, that's the truth.
And we worry about things that are so far over the horizon that we never get a chance to live right now in this moment.
Man, that is so awesome that you said that, because I'm a follower of the Dalai Lama. Excuse me. A few years ago, goodness, sorry about that. A few years ago, I actually sent him 2 jean jackets, a Levi and a Wrangler. And he sent me back a picture of one of his people of him wearing them. And I was, at different times. And so it's pretty awesome. So I've never met him. I've never sat down with him, but I've communicated with him probably for the last, 10, 11, 12 years. And I got a thing the other day, and it was one of his speeches, and it was an excerpt that was sent to me by one of his people that said, you might really like this. And there's a picture of him speaking, and the excerpt that they sent me, he said, the thing about humanity that fascinates me the most is man. And somebody said, why? And he said, a man spends his youth trying to save up all of his money, work as hard as he can to stay well, to exercise, do all the things he wants to do, and not get sick. Then he spends his middle years afraid of losing what he has and afraid of getting sick. And then when he gets old, he worries about getting sick and spending his money and his wealth that he has saved in order to stay well without ever having paused long enough to live life. Constantly in worry, constantly in toil, constantly in strife, trying to make things better until the end comes, and he's never lived at all. And
it's brilliant.
It was amazing when you think about it. And you talk to people, and they tell you, "Oh, I'm doing this, and I'm working overtime. I got 2 jobs. I'm saving money. I'm trying to get insurance, and my wife is sick, and I'm having to get." Insurance for that or something, blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden at the end, you realize, wow, that's all it's been about. It's trying to keep your head above water and not feel pain. I could sit here and probably do a 10-hour show on the crap that's wrong with, my family, my companion, myself, and people that I know of a physical, medical nature. And is it worth it? Is it worth it to put that much worry, that much concern without saying, after we go and do this and that, let's go to the Caribbean for a week. Let's go to Mexico for a few days. Let's go visit the National Park Yosemite. Let's just go to Santa Fe or Taos or just hang out someplace for a couple of weeks or a couple of days or a week and whatever, just to get away from this and make a point not to answer the phone, not to talk about what's going on, just to be there and go, I'm here. It's like the old saying, you can't see the forest for the trees. Oh, there's too damn many trees. I can't see anything. Well, that's the whole point.
Right.
That's the forest, dude. You're just not looking right.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, we could go on and on and on. And, that takes me off into the tangent of narrow-minded people. I have 2 good friends, one I've known for 40 years and one I've known for 15 years, and they're both gay. And we freely have them at our house, to dinner. I don't give anything. Over a Thanksgiving brunch thing we had, somebody that was there looked at me and said, hey, he's gay, right? I went, yeah. Well, he's gay and he's in your house. I said, what, am I going to catch it? Am I going to catch it? Oh, right, I brushed up against him. I caught it gay. What's going to happen now? I mean, that was the most asinine, stupid thing I've ever heard in my life. Oh, he's gay and he's in your house. Oh, my God. Quick, give me a biosuit. I'm going to catch it. Oh, my God. By the way, if I do, you're really cute. Maybe we can go on a camping trip together or something, Come on, get real. That's insane.
Yeah, there are so many closed-minded people. It never ceases to amaze me. And you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Well, there's too many closed-minded people. And I was talking to a man today, and he goes, well, Mike, if you really want to offend me, and he wasn't talking about me offending him, he's talking about you, the universal people out there. He goes, you just offend my God, my family, my religion. Apparently God and religion are 2 different things to him, which is kind of good, I hope. Or my guns. And he went on like a couple other things. I was like, well, what would you do if somebody offended your guns, for instance? Because I'd beat the hell out of them or I'd shoot them. I was like, oh my God, then we better not offend you. And he was like, damn right. And I wasn't being like agreeing. I was trying to be as facetious as I could be because it was the dumbest thing I ever heard.
Right.
And he's like, oh, I'd probably beat him up or kill him. I was like, oh my God. Were you raised on moonshine or something? Because you definitely got a problem. If you're that narrow-minded and that aggressively angry that someone would even think about it.
Now, do you think that that's something new, or is that something that's been around for a while?
Well, I think it's been around for a long time. Go back to the Crusades. No. Crusades are new. The 1200s and 1300s when that happened. Let's go back even further. between the Persians and the Greeks, the Persians and the Romans, Alexander the Great, and then further back to the Sumerians. It didn't take much for somebody to come and burn your village, kill everybody in it and every animal in it because you did or said something that offended their belief system.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like being in the Middle East and an American or Canadian or British or pretty much any other nationality for that matter, and you use both your right and your left hand, yet I have been around people from the Middle East and I've done something with my left hand and they were like, oh, you can't do that.
Right.
I was like, well, I just picked up a can of food and put it over here, or I moved this thing of meat because we're going to cook it. No, but that's your dirty hand.
Yeah.
You have
left
to use,
hand is your dirty hand.
And I'm
That's
like,
right.
dude, I wash both of my hands. I don't know what you do, but I use soap on both my hands. You know, I'm what you call ambidextrous. I use both hands. You know, and so that kind of shocked me that in 2014, 2015, people still get totally freaked out by the most simplest accidental offenses.
Oh, absolutely.
You can offend somebody without even knowing it.
Right. In the Middle East, if you show someone the bottom of your shoe, that's an insult.
That is true in Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, India. And I don't, okay, don't wear waffle stompers when you're over there. You might really offend them with stuff that is stuck in those things. But yes, you're absolutely right. It's highly offensive. I don't understand. Each culture has its own little nuances of what. Ooh, that's wrong. That offends me. Here in America, you throw a hand up in the air to hail a cab, or you might hold up two fingers to hail a cab. If you do that in France or in Germany, that's like saying up yours.
Oh, yeah.
Out
Australia,
now.
too.
Yeah, yes, in Australia. Right. And they will get on you. If somebody thinks you're doing it to them, especially in Australia, you wind up getting, smacked upside the head with a can of lager or something, And that's not a joke, 'cause I've been in Australia, and I've seen how they react to what they feel are offenses, or that you've questioned them when they say something. You go, what did you say? I don't understand. They will go off on you.
Oh, absolutely.
They will go off on you.
Even the OK symbol that
yes.
we know in America, to where you connect your index finger to your thumb in a circle while the rest of your fingers stay straight up in the air. That means OK in the United States, but in other countries that means
you're an asshole.
That's right.
You're absolutely right. And it doesn't take much to get some people to go off the deep end.
So intolerance has been here for an awful long time.
Intolerance has been here since, I think, Adam and Eve, or if you really look into it, first Adam and Lilith, then Adam and Eve. Offenses have been taken greatly. Allegedly, according to some of the original text, Adam's first wife was called Lilith. And they got into a fight, and she stormed off, allegedly went with the devil, because of a argument they had concerning sex. And then God made him Eve, but this time he made it from his rib so she'd be more submissive, according to legend, according to theological teachings and beliefs in some of the Christian and Hebrew religious lore.
Right, because the Talmud is the Old Testament.
Yes, exactly. And so I guess you could literally say perceived offenses has been around since mankind has set foot on this earth. Unless, of course, you believe aliens seeded us here, then it probably happened on other planets before we came here.
Well, that's a whole different religion altogether. A whole different belief system.
Yes, it is.
And that exists, too.
Yes, it does.
You and I have run into those people,
yes,
I'm
we
sure.
have. People who believe that humans were planted on this planet by aliens as part of their gene pool, and we just simply haven't advanced as far as they have yet. I'm sure we're working on it with all the damn nuclear bombs and biological weapons we have, though. If we don't kill ourselves. Who was it that said, was it you who was telling me, Lord Mountbatten, before he died, somebody asked him, if you believed in reincarnation, what would you come back as? And he said, a virus. And they said, of all the things to come back, why would you come back as a virus? And he said, because I could kill about 3/4 of the world's population and get rid of all these bastards I don't like. That's a pretty sick way of going about it.
Wow.
And, there's a lot of people who believe that. The 500 million population limit?
Right.
And that's on the stones in Georgia.
The Georgia Guidestones.
The Georgia Guidestones, yes.
To where the entire Earth's population needs to be under. And it's not 500 million. I think it's 500,000. Isn't it?
Oh, you are correct. Yes, you are. You are absolutely correct. I just looked at that the other day on the internet. They claim they don't know who put that stone there or what guidelines they had. And,
That's bullshit that they say that they
of course.
know.
And they say, I'm a Mason. I'm a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason. I'm a York Rite Mason. I'm a Master Mason, Blue Lodge, Eastern Star. And I've never heard a single Mason or Shriner even utter a sound like that. So I don't think it was the Masons that did it.
No.
And the Masons are supposed to be the precursor to the Illuminati. Mm-hmm. And I've never met an Illuminati person before.
I'll tell you this much. I'm not psychic. I don't pretend to be psychic.
But you are pretty damn smart. One of the smartest people I know.
But I have a strange, sneaking suspicion that the same people that are in charge of the Guidestones are also in charge of the, how would you say, the green movement, the same movement that wants to put carbon taxes on things, the ones that will tell you that there is far too much CO2 on the planet and we need to do something about it. We need to shut down all these things that are causing CO2. And they really never get very descriptive about what is causing the CO2, but they're very adamant about getting rid of CO2. And there's this underlying message, and it's the 800-pound gorilla in the room that no one wants to talk about, and it's the fact that the largest cause of CO2 on the planet is mankind, human beings.
Yes, when we breathe out.
And what they are saying is, without saying it, is that they want the population of the planet to be significantly decreased. And then you have to ask yourself, sounds like an agenda, and it seems to me like, I don't know, it's beyond genocide, really. It's the ultimate kind of it's almost to the point of, I don't know, xenophobia.
Well, would you agree with me? Because some people do, and I haven't asked you about this. Yesterday in the news, it said that one person was brought back from Africa with Ebola, and they were in serious condition. Well, somewhere along the time between yesterday and this morning, somebody got the information that it was 10 people brought back from, not one, 10 people brought back, and they were taken directly to the CDC. Now, the CDC said they had no quarantine rooms at all. They only had like 4 hospitals in the United States that had a level 5 or level 4 quarantine rooms. All of a sudden, they must have at least 10 because all 10 people were taken there. This Ebola outbreak and then the measles outbreak that's going on, I know this may seem like a weird question, and those of you who are listening, I don't know what you may think. Put it in the comments or whatever. But do you think it's kind of a biological sweeping up? I mean, you kill a lot of people that way. How many? 10,000 a week in Africa? Africa has a lot of people, but it can't sustain losses like that very long.
Well, if someone were to want to decrease the human population, that would be one definite way to do it. The plague in itself.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
Got rid of a significant portion of the European population,
almost half.
As well as the Asian population.
Almost half the population died. And when the influenza hit the United States, almost 200,000 people died. Now, that was in the early 1900s when there wasn't a whole hell of a lot of people in America.
Right.
Now we're at close to, 300 million?
350. I
Okay,
think.
350 million people, right. In those days, there was probably less than 150 million people at least because, the growth, etc. And that was a significant amount of people to lose. And like you said, the plague, almost 50% of the known population died in
Right.
Europe, Asia, and through that entire stretch of the continental hookups there. And yeah, if they could do something like that now with Ebola or the measles or anything, how many people would be gone? Millions upon millions of people. Now, you brought up the Green Party, or did you say the Green Party?
Not the Green Party, but
the Green Movement.
Green Movement.
Okay.
Right.
Because there used to be a Green Party in Europe that was a terrorist group.
Right.
They all got killed in like 1973, 1974 by the German and American and French coalition to wipe them out, and they did. And then the Red Brigade and all that. I thought you were talking about something like that.
No.
Do you have any idea who these people in the Green Movement may be? You're not talking about let's go up into the woods and hug a tree. And,
No. I think that they were probably the first to kind of talk about it, but they were talking about it in terms of human beings living in harmony with the planet and,
right.
trying not to leave a big footprint. But
that makes sense.
I think unbeknownst to them, their movement has been hijacked because, you've got very powerful people on this planet, very influential people with lots and lots of money, who just recently, a few months back, met in a European country. They took jets, private jets, to go to this country and talk about man-made climate change,
right,
and what we're going to do about it. And some of these same people, I don't know. I think we can all talk about names and things of inconvenient truths and such and so forth. Movies that kids were forced to see in school to talk about. Of course, at the time it was called global warming. And then once they realized that their models for global warming based upon feedback, and as soon as they realized that the temperatures weren't increasing like the model stated, they had to change the model and call it, now it's climate change.
Yes.
Because, here's the thing. According to them, climate is not the same as weather. And even though our weather is getting colder, it's not the same as the climate, which is definitely getting hotter. So for the Earth to get hotter, it needs to get colder in weather first. And so that's, to me, I just kind of, tilt my head and go, who?
I think you just blew a couple of my neurons, dude. Seriously, that's kind of bizarre.
But that's what they're trying to tell you. Oh, and this is the other thing that they're trying to tell you. We're going to charge you. Okay, so the bigger footprint you have in carbon, you need to buy these carbon tax credits so that you can pollute. Because, Earth takes Visa and MasterCard. So you need to put your money where your mouth is.
Oh my God.
So that this money can go to these different places and they can make this difference. And I'm thinking, what?
How can they make a difference?
How is giving the Earth money going to make a difference in our climate? How is it going to make a difference in changing things? Unless you're using the money, I don't know, to maybe eliminate human beings? Is that what the money is supposed to be used for?
Isn't the Earth belief system that Mother Earth is Gaia?
Right.
And I imagine based on their philosophy and their idea, maybe we're going to work something out. Okay, Gaia, I'm writing this amount on this paper. I'm going to slide it over to you. If you like it, take it. No, okay. Slide it back. Let me write another figure down here. Can we work something out now?
It's like the Joel Osteen thing. It's like,
yeah.
You know what? I'm sorry, folks, but Gaia said, no, that's not enough money.
Yeah.
You need more. You need to pony up more money so that Gaia can fix the climate on the planet.
Yeah.
It's kind of bizarre to me, this kind of thinking. And now
it's beyond bizarre, Marty.
Right. And really what they're saying is people need to die. There are just too many people on the planet, and people need to die. And they're not understanding, okay, if you're going along with this and you want to put this small group of people in charge of man-made climate change because they know what's best for the planet more than you do, you think that they're going to be responsible and they're going to make these life-changing decisions for the entire planet. You are giving up your rights to allow them to make these decisions for you, up to and including maybe your demise. Because you know what? They know better. They know better for what's better for the earth than you do. They're smarter than you. They're more important than you because they are, well, they're rich and they're elite and they're so much better.
So if all these super rich and super elite people who are god-awful wealthy and own all kinds of stuff, there's only a really, theoretically speaking or applied theory speaking, there's only maybe a handful of them on the planet, really.
Right.
There's just not that many. And so if they want 500,000 people, it's going to be like, let's say, 50,000 people in power and prestige, and the other 450,000 will be their manservants and
right, the lackeys.
Maids and,
people to wipe their rich asses.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then, if it ever comes to that, I hope that the people in general have enough balls to start a revolution.
Yeah, see,
I know after the show we'll both be gone. We died in a camping accident, fodder for a mountain lion or something. But
right,
yeah,
our cars will just accidentally run into a tree.
Yeah, a revolution. Hi, boys and girls. Can you say revolution? Sure you can. Sure.
And there's such a flaw in the thinking that they have.
Oh, there is.
Thinking that, oh, well, we're going to do this and it's just going to magically all come together. And it's these people that don't have a clue as to infrastructure, what's required to keep infrastructure going, what's required to keep their lifestyle working and running. These are the same people. Okay, just to give you an example, okay, I'm gonna take you through the view of an elitist bastard.
Well, before you do that, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
The Rothschild claims to be direct descendants of Jesus Christ. Now, Jesus could feed thousands of people with one fish and one loaf. So if he's a direct descendant of Jesus Christ and one of the richest people on planet Earth, why can't he just fix it with a wave of a hand? Back to you, Marty.
Well, considering that Jesus owned nothing other than what he wore on his feet and what he wore on his back, I think that kind of tells you a little something right there.
Of course it does.
But back to the elitist bastard mentality, okay, and this is from personal experience. And people that talk to me, I've probably told them this story before. And since you're now listening, I'm going to share the story with you.
Listen up.
So I worked for a company for a while. And, companies go through cycles, good times, bad times. And so there's this company. Now it's on the down side. And they're looking for people to cut, jobs to cut. And so they go, hey, you know what? These bathrooms, they're really clean bathrooms. They're very clean. They're always clean. They're awesome. These bathrooms are amazing. They're never dirty. And you know what that means, right? That means that the people that clean those bathrooms, we can let those people go. We don't need them because the bathrooms are always clean. So we can let those people go. And then, so they're thinking, okay, sounds good to me. The bean counters love it because, they do what they're told, really. So they fire these people. Well, a week goes by, and guess what? The bathrooms, they're horrible. They look like something out of, what was that Oh, now I'm vapor locking here myself. Well, there's this movie where they have the secret entrance in the bathroom, and the bathroom's so horrid. It's Antonio Banderas. What's the name of that movie?
Oh my God.
Where he's
I know what you're talking about.
It's the sequel to El Mariachi.
Yeah, what we would call down home, hot summer's day on a road stop service station bathroom in Georgia.
Exactly. To where, I mean, it's just covered in feces. It's it's on the walls. It's on the toilet. It's on the floor. It's just everywhere. And so they're really upset because they don't understand. Why are these bathrooms so dirty?
Because the monkey tamers aren't there.
They have such a disconnect between reality and what they think. They think that things just magically happen. You know, there are these elves that come out and make shoes at night, you know.
I actually saw that once when I was really stoned.
Exactly. You know, I think there's something, you know, in that mentality shared with those people.
Yeah.
But just to see the surprise on their face when they realize that they fired the people that were keeping the bathrooms clean.
Yeah.
And then they go, oh.
Now we get it.
You see? And it's not until then do they understand. And then they have to try and fix it. But it's always too late. And the people that they get to clean the toilets never do as good of a job as the people who were doing it before.
Yep.
They always find, well, who can we find that'll take less money for it?
Yep.
You know, I know we used to pay them this amount, but who could we get for this amount? I know we screwed up, but now we have to, we can't pay somebody more because it's actually going to cost them more now for someone to clean it. And they're just astonished, but they still refuse to admit that they were really wrong, and they'll try and push it off and blame something else. And that's one thing that they all have in common, this finger pointing, this blame game, because it can't possibly be them and their flawed logic or their flawed thinking. It's got to be somebody else because, well, hell, they're perfect. They're elite.
Well, let me say this about the mentality that you're talking about. When I first became a doctor, I was practiced general psychology, and then I went into forensic psychopathology, and that's what I do now. My specialty is anxiety, stress, panic disorder, and emotional disorders, and the other side of what I do are victims of sexual crimes and perpetrators of sexual crimes. Well, during this, we talk to an awful lot of people. When you talk to the sick, twisted people that have committed crimes, you hear stuff that would make Adolf Hitler and Pol Pot blush. And when you talk to some of the people that are in corporations, big businesses that need help with, let's say, employee assistance programs for stress, anxiety, and they explain to you what they need or why they need it, you have to have almost a interpreter for every level of mental, emotional, social function there is to try to understand what these people are saying to you, because they're describing to you a perfect utopian existence that they want and crave from their employees that will never happen in this lifetime or any other lifetime, past, present, or future. And you just sit there and go, are you serious? You expect an employee to be a robot, show no emotions, have no stress, no anxiety, have no emotions. A family member dies, they come to work, they cry, you get angry, you send them to the employee assistant. And the mentality of these elitists, of these owners, of these money people, is like something from a different planet altogether. It's like they have no concept of a real human being suffering, day-to-day activities, family raising, or whatever. I talked to one woman and I said, well, you have children and you deal with your children. Do they ever have stress or anxiety? She goes, well, I don't really know. I don't think they do. And I said, well, what are they like when you see them? She goes, I really don't see them. They each have a nanny, and then she reports to me once a week. I'm like, so you have no idea what's going on with your children? She goes, well, yeah, once a week from that report. I'm like, holy God, what is this woman thinking? And she expects all these people that work for her, 60-something people, to be perfect in every way. And it's exactly the kind of the applied ideology of what you just said about the utopian thought mindset, elitist, that, oh my God, this is so gauche, this is unacceptable. She shed a tear. They must be controlled.
They're sociopaths.
Yeah.
That's what these people are.
Yes.
Because these people, these employees, these people that clean the bathrooms, yeah, it's a pretty noisy street, isn't it?
No.
Back to the subject. These people that work for me, or these people that are my underlings or inferiors, they're not really people, and they really have no value or place in their thinking. They're not humans, and they can really easily justify any sort of actions they take that ruin their lives. Or, oh yeah, that plant that is that's employing 500,000 people, we can close that, can't we? That's not really going to do anything. I mean, hell, how much money would that save overall? And well, that's not going to bring down morale in the rest of the company. Not by far. Let's do that. Not realizing how many lives they've just destroyed. But don't we also see that in other places, not just in companies and corporations, but in, I don't know, maybe governments?
Well, governments, schools, everything. I saw that special tonight about Durst. He murdered 3 people, Robert Durst. He murdered 3 people, got off on all 3 because the family's billionaires. And his brother, I can't think of his brother's name, but his last name is Durst. A filmmaker went to speak to him about doing this special about Robert Durst getting by with 3 murders and all that. And he asked the filmmaker what his name was. He told him. And he's like, I don't want to talk to you. You're not successful. And walked away. And then he had his bodyguards remove him. And I'm like, wow. How arrogant is that? You're not successful. You're not up to my level. You're not up to my par. Therefore, I can't speak to you. It's like speaking to a hyena. I just simply can't do it. I'm a man. You're a monkey.
The hubris, the arrogance, it's disgusting. It's just, you talk to these people and you just feel like you have to wash afterward because it's like they've contaminated you. It's disgusting. I'm about to talk to you about something on the air, about something that I have never gone public about before.
That's okay, Marty. I still love you, man.
Just to give you an example, and people who have worked with me in the situation will know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not going to give names. I'm not going to give company names. I'm not going to do any of that, but I will tell you a situation.
Okay.
There was an individual. Okay. He came into the company. He wanted to make these grandiose changes and to do these things. And I was a company person. I believed in it. I busted my ass for it. But something about this individual that came in, that took over the reins, it just rubbed me the wrong way. And unlike his predecessors, he was stealing from the company, something to the tune of $16,000 per month.
Holy Moses.
Okay. And all of a sudden, everybody that knew about the $16,000 a month started to get terminated. I mean, the people that were hard workers, they would bust their ass every day. The ones that showed up, the ones that got things done, all of a sudden they started just disappearing. It's like, oh my God, what the hell is going on? And then it just got worse and worse and worse. Finally, my turn came because I also knew about the $16,000 a month. So at that point, I also knew about the furniture that he moved to his house, the television that he moved to his house. It was more than 16,000. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And since I knew about these things, well, Marty isn't getting the job done anymore, and Marty's got to go. So I was laid off. My position was eliminated. He was one of those people. You want to know what happened to him?
Well, hopefully something bad.
No. Quite the opposite. This individual was not fired. The person that was stealing over $16,000 from the company a month. No, he was promoted. Promoted.
What, to the HMFIC?
Yeah, pretty much. Promoted. And you know what? That blew my mind. That completely blew my mind, to where the company is getting rid of everybody who is actually producing something. The people who are the infrastructure that are getting the jobs done. Those people are expendable. The person who is contributing nothing and the person who is actually stealing is the one that gets promoted. Is that not insane?
Well, the same thing happens in the military. You know, a soldier reports somebody for committing an atrocity or a murder or a rape, and the person that did it gets arrested, but the person that saw him also gets arrested because they didn't do anything to stop him. Okay? So the person that did the crime gets 15 years. The person that reported the crime gets 3 years. The commanding officer that's in charge of it all gets promoted up. If he's a major, he becomes a lieutenant colonel. If the lieutenant colonel becomes colonel. You know? And that's how the system works. Shut up, everybody. Put away those that did something like that. But, my God, you know, this guy is 4 years of West Point, 4 years of Air Force Academy, 4 years of Annapolis, 4 years of Virginia War College, whatever. We can't get rid of him. So we don't want to hurt his feelings. So let's promote him. You know, and we'll just say he didn't know anything about what was going on. You know, one guy's out raping and murdering civilians in a war zone, and another guy tells on him. Let's say the guy who told on him should have done something to stop him. But if he had done something to stop him, like shoot him or beat him up and tie him up and take him in, then he would be in trouble for that.
Right, and the other guy would have nothing happen to
him.
Right,
it's a no-win situation. Those who have power keep getting power. Those that have keep getting. Those that don't have keep getting less.
So why do we allow that?
Because as a nation, we're afraid of the people in power. You know, they can get pulled over for DUI. They can get taken in for molesting their kids. They can get taken in for what they call white-collar crime. The good crime is a crime, but it's a good crime. So they get the minimal, if anything, punishment. Okay? So we know they have power. We know they get by with stuff. And it's a well-known fact that, like this guy on Huffington Post 4 days ago, had the police chief, police officers, detectives, they accused him of something. And every time it went to court, they added stuff to it. But for some weird, bizarre, supernatural reason, if you want to call it that, somebody had left their cell phone on, and it recorded everything. And it wound up in the defense lawyer's hands. And he looked at it, and he had it developed, submitted to the court, and it clearly showed and audio visual, just like watching a video of the police officers talking to the police chief talking to the detectives talking to the DA, saying, let's get this guy. You know, the person that was the center of this was a mega millionaire, owned some super business, super corporation. And he said, well, we don't want anything to happen to him. So this guy who's reporting this stuff, we're going to say he did this. Well, the judge immediately threw it out. And said this was a setup. You know, and all of a sudden, the guy's not talking about it anymore. He's not complaining that he was set up. He's not doing this. He's not doing that. He's just going on about his own way. And another reporter looked into it and said his bank account suddenly showed up with $350,000 in it.
Hush money.
Oh, my God. You know, at the end of it, I get $350,000 tax-free. Yeehaw. You know, and so people are afraid.
Right.
You know, if enough people got together and busted some windows and, well, I'm not going to say anything more, there would be a lot less of it, put it that way.
Well, I think the first step really is for people to be aware that that kind of thing happens, that it does go on. Just to touch a little bit about what you and I were talking about earlier this evening.
True, but you have to do it with enough other people who think like that, who want it to stop, like a wolf pack or a lion pride. Because if you're the lone wolf, you're going to get trapped or you're going to get shot, you know? But if you're a bunch, that's going to be a deterrent. And until people can come together and say, this has to stop, this has to end, it's not going to.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, well, we've been rapping here for about a little over an hour. I guess you're going to have to edit this up, huh?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Okay. Well, until next time then, we come up with something, then let's do that.
Sounds good. I had a very enjoyable evening, and we covered an awful lot of stuff in just an hour.
Yes. Well, usually when we get to talking, we do cover a lot of different things because there's so many things to talk about. Now, on my other show, After Dark with Dr. Mike, you usually stick to one subject with a lot of little branches to it. But I really like the way that you're set up to just one thing leads into another, just like a normal thought set. You know, you don't just think about one thing like, hello, Marty, I went to Starbucks today and had hot chocolate. What did you have? Oh, I had a latte. That is good. Let's discuss coffee.
Right.
For the next
Let's
2 hours. Yeah.
Let's go back to the chocolate.
Yeah.
Tell me about the chocolate. How chocolatey was it? What percentage of chocolate was it?
It was 5 squirts instead of 3. Yeah. So I like having a broad spectrum discussion. I think that's how people think.
Well, it's supposed to be organic, and at the end, it's supposed to really talk about things that bring us together. And, you know, informing people about things that are going on that can bring us together.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to doing many more with you here, and possibly when we get the radio stuff up and running, we'll be doing both.
Sounds good.
All right, man. Thank you for having me.
You've just listened to Glue, and we'll see you next time.
Good night.